Rock Hill and the world. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what time you're watching this. Welcome back to Rock Hill Video. I'm your host, Chris Corrado. This is our political show. It's on rockhillvideo.com. At the beginning of every show, I always like to say that when our guests come on, this is an open forum to talk about the issues. Anyone and everyone is welcome. I went to Winthrop University, which is in Rock Hill. My degree is in mass communication with a concentration in journalism. And one of the things I learned about the news is that everyone should have an opportunity to share their feelings and thoughts on the issues. I don't bring anybody on here to bash them. I don't bring anybody on here to praise them. If I ever bring more than one person on my show and they have differences of opinions, I don't cut somebody off because they're not saying what I like. We don't gang up on anybody, and nobody gets extra time because I might agree with them. That's just not how I want to operate my my platform or forum, to give candidates an opportunity to talk about, why they're doing what they're doing and their background. Everyone, like I said, is always welcome. Our guest tonight, like I said, if someone she was running against wanted to come on our show, they also get an equal opportunity. And numerous times in other situations, I have offered opposing candidates opportunities to come on here. Some have taken it and some have not. Some haven't even responded to me, but there have been several calls and emails that I've made sure that I at least control my effort to where no one could ever say I'm showing any type of favoritism towards any type of party, whether it be of the two-party system, third party, etc., etc. Everyone gets that opportunity. So tonight, which is January 5th, at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have on Stacey Prussman is our guest tonight. She is running for mayor of New York City in the year we're in right now. You can see in her background her name and what she's running for in the year. So here we go. Stacey, how are you tonight?
Great. Thank you for having me, Chris. It's great to have here a New Yorker that's down south. And it's fun to be here. Thank you for giving voices, political voices, a place to have their opinions known. I think it's great what you're doing.
Not a problem.
I love I think political discourse is the best thing that we have, because we can, if we listen to each other, because I think between hearing different opinions, we come up with the best solution a lot of times. And I think, I used to date a lot of people with opposite, a lot of boyfriends I had in the past had different opinions than I did, and we'd argue, and it was great because I'd hear his opinion, he'd hear my opinion, and we'd actually come up with a new opinion. So I like that, actually.
Good, I'm glad. So before we get into what you're running for and your politics, is there anything about your early life or
Sure.
things you'd like to share about your past, your upbringing?
Well, I grew up in Brooklyn. I was born and raised here. I lived in almost all the boroughs. I think I lived in 3 of the 5 boroughs.
Okay.
Queens, Manhattan. I stayed in Staten Island for a little bit of time. I didn't live there, but I used to hang out there a lot at one time. And then the Bronx I used to work in. I used to do a TV show there. So basically, I've experienced all 5 boroughs. I love the boroughs. I love the spices in each borough. I love what they each bring. They all have a different personality. And I am a true New Yorker, born, bred, the whole 9 yards. And I come from an entertainment background and an activism background as well. So people know me more as an entertainer and a radio host, but I also did a lot of animal activism. I do a lot of mental health advocacy, and I've been doing that for many, many years as well. And and bipartisan voter registration, because I believe the democratic process is the most beautiful process we have in our country. And I've done a lot of registering to vote campaigns for different companies and different organizations, and I love that as well.
Okay, awesome.
And always bipartisan, because I believe that's where the voices are heard.
Okay, great. So you said over in Brooklyn. What part of Brooklyn?
Like Bensonhurst, Gravesend area.
Okay.
So I'm like real South Brooklyn, if anyone knows about that. Right by, I'm walking distance from the Coney Island, from the parachute jump and the cyclone, and I'm right near all the famous Brooklyn landmarks that are in South Brooklyn. So I'm proud of being a Brooklynite.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, like I said, I told you earlier, I grew up in Queens and one of the other 5 boroughs of New York City. And you pretty much named every single one of them, and lived in 3 out of the 5, so cool. Anything else you wanted to share about what you're currently doing right now, whether it be personal life, hobbies, etc.?
Well, I'm currently doing a lot of self-care and writing a lot of policy for my mayoral run, and that's basically, it's taking a lot of time up between campaigning and fundraising and writing policy and finding out what currently is going on, because things right now are changing from second to second between having the vaccines at hand now and also, stores closing and big, places closing that, restaurants closing that never would have closed, but due to the pandemic are closed. So really dealing with what this pandemic has done to New York City is really what I've been looking at in terms of my run, and how are we going to come back? How are we going to bring it back and even better?
And you're also a comedian too, right?
I am a comedian, and I love doing jokes. But I'm careful with jokes when I'm doing policy and political stuff, because people take it literally. So I have to be very careful with my words. But I'm always up for telling jokes. I believe I always will have a sense of humor, but I just want to make sure that the policies that I speak about come out clearly and they're not coming out as jokes. Because that's been a big question. Are you doing this for your career? Are you running for mayor because you want to, be a better, famous comedian? No, I'm running for mayor because I want to be mayor of New York City. That's why I'm running for mayor.
Okay. How many years were you doing comedy for? Or have been doing it?
About 18 to 20.
Oh, wow.
Like
Okay.
life sentence, pretty much. And before that, I was a professional actress on Broadway, off Broadway, and all that stuff.
Okay.
Movies, TV.
So have you done any traveling?
I traveled the entire country. I used to speak. I was also a speaker on two issues: mental health and wellness and stress, and eating disorders. And I was a very kind of well-known eating disorder speaker on this subject for many, many years. I toured throughout the country, colleges, universities, treatment centers, memorial events, fundraisers to speak about eating disorders and the effects of disordered eating.
Okay. What made you decide to do that? Why was that a passion for you?
I had an eating disorder myself growing up, and I was in recovery and have been in recovery for many years, and I was able to speak about my own problems and show people that you can get help. And it is a serious problem that people don't really, I think a lot of people haven't really taken heed to, specifically our politicians and our, a lot of the money that didn't go towards eating disorder awareness. It's the number one killer of all mental health issues is anorexia.
Oh.
So people never really understood that. So it's been, especially among young people, it's a big killer. So I think that people never really gave it the awareness that it deserved and needed. And people always thought, oh, just pick up a sandwich, oh, just eat, And so I think that spreading awareness in that, and I think it also leads to other addictions, and other addictions they coexist together with eating disorders. So addiction is a big issue right now, specifically since we've been in a pandemic. People have been locked down. People have been isolated. Isolation breeds, more addiction, because people actually get sober in community. In these 12-step programs or in rehab centers, it's community is how people actually get sober or healthy or unaddicted or less addicted. They find healing through that. And now that those human interactions are kind of through the computer, it may not work for so many people. And so right now people are dying to get into rehab centers, and there's no beds. And I heard that there's a lot less beds and available for people that need help, unless you have a lot of money and you can afford $50,000 a month or $30,000 a month type place.
Okay, which a lot of people don't have that kind of money.
Right, especially now. And if you had that money, now you've gone through your savings. Like a lot of people have gone through their savings. If you have $3,000 a month rent and you were making $100,000 a year and you had maybe 4 months savings, you're kind of and you're living on unemployment. Maybe you're kind of like struggling comparatively to what you were. So people are moving out of New York as well. But anyway, so that's another subject. But basically, the addiction and mental health are probably the most important things we have to deal with, other than our physical health right now.
Got it.
In terms of the pandemic.
Okay. Anything else you wanted to share about the comedy or any of the?
Well, I am I was a national touring headliner until the pandemic, and I did some. I don't love doing Zoom comedy. Is that my thing? Like I've done a few of those. For I did some charity work with that, but I love making people laugh when I can. It was my passion. I did it for 18 years. I produced shows. I've worked with everybody, and now I'm taking a different turn in my career. So.
Okay. What type of without going into too much detail, what type of material do you typically like to joke about?
I was very edgy. I'm a very edgy
Okay.
comedian, believe it or not. I'm not I joke about my own life, about situations. I would write a lot on the spot, especially, I tour and write about what I experienced that day. And just, I joke about anything and everything, specifically, my own life, my own experiences. I love talking about that stuff.
Of course. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any specific whether it be anything with your comedy or public speaking in general that any accomplishments you want to talk about or challenges you faced?
Um, well, the only challenge I'm facing now that I'm running for mayor of New York City is that people think it's like sort of like a jokey run, like sort of what Howard did with the governor years ago, Howard Stern,
Oh.
and it's not. So I want, that's been something that I've been having to explain to people that know me because they're like, why are you running for mayor? Like it doesn't, meanwhile, I've been an activist my entire life. I've been in the political process and, I just never marketed myself that way, so to speak. But I have always been politically active. And I was very quiet about a lot of my, political activity because I was, I always didn't mix my politics with my comedy. It wasn't how I worked.
Okay.
I never, really did that. I'm kind of very much a person that keeps things separate like that. I think it's important. Same thing with like my speaking. I was funny in my speeches. They weren't serious. They were serious, very serious speeches, but I always brought humor. But that drove the point home more when you do a motivational speech, and especially about life and death situation. You have to lighten it sometimes. So I knew when to lighten it up, and so the same thing. I mean, with politics, you have to be so literal because the words are so important. Words do matter. And so I'm careful when to joke and when not to. Because you could say something sarcastically and then the people think it's literal. And it's like, so it's kind of a problem I faced. I'm learning that in the political spectrum. It's a little different.
Okay. Is there anything else you're working on right now that you haven't talked about or shared yet with us?
No, that's what I'm working on right now. My campaign, it takes a lot of time.
I'm sure.
I do some animal rescue and animal rights stuff. I still advocate for animals and their safety and keep, I'm a big proponent of animal rights. So I do that as well. I've always done that as part of my being. So that's what I do other than that. But it all goes together. I think everything's kind of interconnected. Not, it's not just one thing or another. And I think when you do one thing, a lot of times it reflects another part of your life. So, and I've loved speaking, and I love to speak on different subjects, especially mental health awareness. Is my passions as well. I think it's very important that people need to take care of their minds. It all goes together because I think that's what keeps people healthy and a good immune system. So if you do get sick, you have that sort of like strength mentally to fight it because it's all connected.
Okay.
I'm kind of one of those people, like we're all everything's connected inside. It's not one piece, like, everything's kind of interconnected. And I believe that you can't just look at one thing and not another thing. When it comes to anything, it all is integrated.
Okay. So you're running for mayor. What made you decide to do that?
Well, many years ago, I was on a radio station with the Reverend Bob Levy. We did a radio show called Ears Wide Open. It was a libertarian radio station, and we weren't political at all. Like we were like the least political. There was a lot of political people on that station, and I had said I want to run for mayor, and I was like 14, and I said in 2016, and I kind of was half joking at the time, but I meant it, and then as the years went by, I was like very serious. It's like even like, artwork that this gentleman, Doug Nelson, did back in like 2014 of me, a funny one. as running for mayor. And then I really meant it. I actually really meant it. But like we were joking, it was a comedy show. And then when it came to the pandemic, I decided to really announce it and create a campaign with the help of Larry Sharp, who's my senior advisor.
Okay.
He's a Libertarian Party. Yeah, he ran for governor against Cuomo in 2018.
Okay. So we definitely have talked a little bit about, my next question is what experience you would have to bring to the table. Obviously, you have a lot of public speaking experience. As a comedian, you probably have to be very relatable, and so you have two different sides. You have your comedy side, and I'm sure when you were, as an activist, had to have a serious side. And you're from New York City, obviously. So what other experiences, will you bring to the table as the mayor?
Well, I other than my political involvement and writing policy and that kind of experience, I have experience with actually living in New York and experiencing every aspect of the city possible, from the private sector to the governmental sector, to watching how I worked as a sub teacher a couple of years ago. So I know what the education system is like in public schools and private schools. So I've actually experienced so much of the city from every economic angle that I could bring that to the table as well. Not just, I'm not a billionaire that, looks down and not really living in the city and has a driver. I've been living in the subways, not living, but, taking the subways and taking, taxi cabs. And I've been, I've experienced the city in every which way possible for many, many years. As an artist, as a business person, as a person running for office, as a speaker, I've actually experienced every aspect of the city from the 90s till now. And I can see the differences and the changes and the problems and the issues. And I have that innate experience, and I believe that will help a lot in my leadership of it.
Okay. And you're running on the Libertarian ticket?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What can you tell us about Libertarianism? Because, we know about, obviously, Democrats and Republicans, and from what I gather, the Libertarian Party is I guess, came in third when it came to the presidential election. And
they usually, yeah. They're a very interesting party. We're a party of many different beliefs, which is really interesting because, like Democrats are more liberal, Republicans are more conservative, and so, but libertarians, you could be very conservative, very liberal, and still be libertarian, which is because I believe in freedom, less government. And there's different, and some people are very extreme in each way. And I think what's so great about it, it kind of is the most, there's a lot of fighting amongst the party, but there's a lot of acceptance of belief. And I think that is so important in any party. And that's what I love about it. It's that it's so diverse in your beliefs. But the one belief is that we do believe in freedom, in a real way, and less government. We want less government. We don't want more government. But, it's a kind of a crazy time where we feel like I get a lot of emails from people telling me, Cuomo's going to take you out of your house and put you in a camp. And, people are fearful of that right now, are very fearful. We don't know. We're in such an unknown, I feel, in my years living on this earth, we're in such an unknown time that, and we're afraid our freedoms are going to be taken away in such a way. People, disagree about the mask wear, and that's a personal choice. I believe it does help. That's my belief. I'm not going to mandate that on you, but it does help. And, but if you have germs and I have germs, I don't want your germs. Just like people that have sex, if you wear a condom and you don't have to get a baby or a disease. That's how I look at it. Now, everyone looks at it differently. I don't think it should be a political issue, though. I think it should be a medical issue. And that's my opinion. Because I come from, I've been around a lot of medical professionals my whole life, and I almost was a pre-med student. So, I have a lot of feelings about that. I don't think everything should be politicized either. I think people are politicizing everything now, and I think that's not healthy for a growth of a nation.
Okay.
Or a rebirth of a city.
Okay.
I think partisan politics will destroy us as a nation, and it will destroy us as a city. We will just, we also don't want to be taken over and be over governed because people have gone hog wild. That's another thing. So there's a happy medium to all of this. And so I think people need to learn to be okay being slightly inconvenienced, but also going ahead and forth and having their businesses opened and having their lives not be so uprooted that it's been in New York City. I think there's a way to do it where it's not uprooted, where things aren't locked down. You know, my gym is open, but the restaurant isn't open. So it doesn't make sense to me. Like the way they close things down and open things up, it's very haphazard. And so I think there's a way to open things up very safely and still make a profit and still keep your business thriving. That's my opinion.
Of course, yeah. Are there any common misconceptions you'd like to share about you and the party you represent?
Sure. Well, I speak for me, so I don't know what all the misconceptions are of the party, but the misconceptions about me is that I am not taking my run seriously, that I'm a comedian, I'm doing it for publicity, I don't, really have a strong policy behind me, and all those are false. I have very strong policy. I write policy 2 to 3 times a week, if not more, with a team of 5 people that are policy writers by profession. I have an entire team working with me, and I'm a real candidate. I'm not some like weirdo person that's running to be like sticky, I'm a real candidate. And the reason why I'm running Libertarian is because I believe in the values of the party, and I believe that I think in order to have a real democracy, there should be third-party candidates and just as viable as the other 2 parties, because partisan politics have become disgusting, especially in the last few years, more than ever. So bringing a third party to the table with real policy, solid plans, and a real solid team behind us, and I believe that is what the future of democracy is, truly.
Okay.
I mean, you have a third party. Right now, 2 seats are making the decision in Georgia right now. Now, can you imagine there's 8 more libertarians or 8 more people from other parties? So, and they're kind of centrist and they can go either way on either direction. How interesting would that be in a process, because you have real opinions and not based on sort of polarized opinions? Like, I might believe one way for one subject and then another way in another subject. So I have to pick a side? Why can't I just stay as a libertarian and have my freedoms and choose what I want? Like, I don't understand why there's not more independence in government right now. That I think it's kind of antiquated at this point.
Okay.
Unless that's what you strongly believe in. But if you're just choosing a party, people are like, Stacey, why don't you run one of the parties? And I said, well, I don't really totally believe in one of the parties. Why do I have to run against my own beliefs? So I think that's an important thing as well, is that people really need to understand what their own political beliefs are and run on those beliefs, not be partisan to parties. And then again, they raise billions of dollars. I have to raise, millions and billions of not billions, millions of dollars on my own. I don't have a huge a party like Yang does. Yang probably does. He's a billionaire, or somebody else that already has. They have their whole machine in place. So we're a grassroots campaign. We're raising our own money, and so donate if you can to PrussmanForMayor.com. And we're registered with the Board of Elections, and we're registered with the Campaign Finance Board. So if you believe in what we do and you can read my policy, support us. And I know any amount is great, whatever you can afford. I know people want to support candidates they believe in. So if you can do that, that's great.
Okay. Yeah, you've talked about writing different policies. Is there anything specific in your plans or principles of yours that you wanted to share when you become an elected official?
Well, I've been saying this often, and being in entertainment for many years and dealing with a lot of nonsense, I'm really right now very concerned with solutions. And I kind of want to make the best choices for the city that will create the most growth, both economically, bring people back into the city. People have left the city in droves. Businesses have left in droves. They're shut, some, but most not by choice. And so I don't have a time for a lot of nonsense. It's all about solutions by keeping people safe and hoping they keep themselves safe as possible until this, virus is under control, so to speak. I mean, which it sort of is becoming in New York, I believe. And some people want to get vaccinated, so we're going to try to. I just created a plan to. We wrote a plan to vaccinate people in the most effective way possible with a medical team. Actually, I have a medical team on my staff. So, and there's not forced vaccinations. There's a way to vaccinate because you have to do it in two. It's two different shots. So, and if you don't get it exactly on the same day, the 2 weeks, whatever the time period is, it's not, the vaccine is ineffective.
Okay.
And the vaccine, it takes about 2 months from the first vaccine to be inoculated, by the way. So this vaccine is not like you're vaccinated, you're fine, go ahead and have a good time. It's not that easy. It's a process. So I think people need to learn and educate themselves what exactly the vaccine is before they take it, make their own choice, and then create places where you can safely have it administered and accessible to the entire city.
Okay.
And we're creating a plan in place about that. We don't want to do it haphazardly. We're trying to take all the money that's been wasted, and we're trying to look at the budget right now, what the city has and where the money is right now, and see if we can streamline it, because we're broke. New York is going to go broke if we don't do something about it.
Okay. Yeah, I think I read somewhere that, because I think you talked about a lot of people leaving, that they might lose a congressman because of that.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big deal. That's a lot of people who are leaving.
Okay.
Because I think per congressman, there's a certain amount of people, and
Right.
That means at least it might be hundreds of thousands. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's like a lot of people for that to happen. You have to have a mass exodus. So basically, there's make no mistakes about it. New York City's in dire straits. And to take on a job such as mayor right now is probably quite a challenge. And so I don't want anything in my scope but solutions, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
For the better, I want to, and make sure that people, that is my job. I want to create solutions and not rhetoric, because I think it's really important right now that people see why, how, what. I think facts, and seeing the facts, understanding them, and is what's important. I'm a very fact-driven person, in terms of the way I govern, the way I live my life. I want to know all the facts, why, how this works, and let people make choices for themselves in that way. And then, figure out what's going on behind closed doors that we don't, that I'm not working in the mayor's office right now. I want to know where that money went, where is it going, is it allocated properly, and figure out the entire budget.
What would you say? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Because I was looking at projects I wanted to do, and I don't know if and these are projects like creating a new tram lines from New York, from Brooklyn to Queens, and like Bronx, up north, south, east, west. Because it's like, the subways, you have to go through the entire city to go to certain places. So, more streamlined travel was one of my goals, adding some bus routes that maybe need to be added to make things more accessible. So, that's urban planning, obviously. And so if we don't have the money for that, we can't do these things. Or if nobody's living there, no one's paying taxes because everyone left, we can't do these things. So,
of course,
it's important. It's very important.
If we haven't already touched on it yet, what would you say your ultimate goal is, or goals are, as mayor?
My ultimate goals right now, if I had run for mayor years ago, for instance, I was mayor, it would probably have been different, right? It would be like more simple, give more, make tourists, make it fun for tourists, stuff like that, things, more simple sort of a more simple of a campaign. It would have been, New York would be running well, figuring out the taxes situation, bringing more jobs, affordable housing. That would have been, still very important. Affordable housing has always been a problem. Homeless is always, we normalize homeless people here. It's not normal to be homeless. Our shelters are terrifying. That would be something I want to work on. And I don't know, people just gave up on it or they normalized it. It's just part of New York, but it's not acceptable. People could be homeless by choice, but if there's mentally ill people walking around, they need help. They need help in a way, and then home somewhere where they can be safe. I don't think people should be living on the streets for months and years at a time. I've seen it, and it's not acceptable. And as New Yorkers, I think people just normalize it. You see a homeless person on the street, they're like, "Oh, there's that guy." No, these are human beings, and that's not okay with me, and that's never been okay. Now our homeless population has tripled or quadrupled. I don't know what the numbers are, but they're insane. There's people using drugs. We have a horrible drug issue, and I don't believe drugs should be criminalized. I think there are addictions and their diseases, and I think drug use we need to fix that as well. Those are people that need help. It could be a person that hurt their back, ended up on pills because they have a bad back, and now that they don't get their pills from the doctor, and they're addicted to OxyContin, and now they're taking heroin. I mean, that's a story I've seen in many rehabs. I've spoken in rehabs, and I've seen so many different stories, and they're not just people that want to be drug addicts. I mean, and a lot of people aren't, but they're not people that even had a bad luck. They just hurt their back, and next thing they know, they're shooting heroin a couple of months later because they don't have any more pills from the doctor. It's tragic. It's a tragic situation, and I think that that's something that I want to work on right now, and I would have worked on before as well.
Okay.
But our challenges are great. Make no mind about that. Our challenges are great right now. Extremely great, and it's going to take a lot. It's going to, it's going to be a lot of work with the federal, state. You just can't get out of something like this. We're the greatest city in the world, and it should not be where it is right now. Mayor de Blasio really messed it up. I hate to just put blame on one person, but he really didn't help at all. He was kind of a lame duck during this whole time. That's what I feel like.
Okay. This might be a little too far in advance, but just out of curiosity, what are your plans after politics? Your ideal retirement?
I never plan on retiring.
All right.
Obviously, if I'm like old, if I live that long, God willing, if I live very old and I have my plans on retiring, I don't think that far ahead, but I'd probably just do more theater. I love theater. I'd be acting and movies and, whatever it might be, or do more politics, run for another office. I would love to run for a Congress position or a senator. That's something else I would, think about running for.
Okay.
There's no age limit there. So there's a lot of different, if I choose to leave politics, that's what I always have my performance if I want. So I want to work till I can't move anymore. I don't want to retire.
Okay. Okay. What do you want to be known for?
Well, that's an interesting question. What do I want to be known for?
And that could be anything. It doesn't even have to be political.
No, I just want to be known for speaking my mind and doing the best work I could do. If that was being a comedian or being a mayor or being a politician or being just a human being. I just want to be the best at whatever I've done. And I think the most important is to be a person that really cared about other people and other beings, because at the end of the day, after being alone and, a lot in the beginning of this pandemic, that's all that really counts is who we connect with and our friendships and our people we love. And at the end of the day, that's really what counts, because, it's all we have, really. All the career and all that hoopla, it doesn't really matter. None of it matters.
Got it. Okay. Anything else you wanted to share when it comes to voting or term limits?
I definitely think there should be term limits on Congress and Senate seats. I think there's not enough turnaround. But I think people should vote for who you want, and don't vote because your party, don't vote. A lot of people are. This is what I've noticed in a lot of elections. Like no one likes either candidate, but they vote for the less person they like least. Vote for who you want. I think that's how people get elected. I think vote for, not against the other person. Like, I really love this candidate. I believe in their words, not because the other person really is awful. I think that's something that, and don't feel like your vote doesn't count, because it does count. So, and I think that more third parties should run. I think, if they run a solid campaign, if they have solid policy and they run a real campaign, give them a chance. Specifically, if they speak to you as a candidate, they should give them a chance. I voted third party a few times, a lot of times actually, most of the time, and and some times I haven't. It depends on who the candidate was. So I think that you really should vote for who you believe in, and if their values are your values.
Okay.
Don't play politics with your vote. That's what I'm going to say.
Okay.
Really vote. Vote for your values. That's all I can say. I mean, I can't force anybody to vote the way they don't want to vote, but we've been trained to vote party and not values, and I think that's important.
Okay. My final question is anything else you want to share that I didn't bring up or you want to talk about?
I'm sure I could think of a million things I want to talk about. I have a policy for ending lockdowns. It's on the Prussman it's on my policy plan on my website, PrussmanForMayor.com.
Okay, sorry.
I have a whole policy about how to not have lockdowns and open safely. We have and it's kind of very centrist. I don't want to have mandates that, in terms of you get arrested if you don't wear a mask on the street. That stuff is not how I work. But I do want to encourage people to take responsibility, think of your neighbors, be safe with yourself, most of all. Like, really be care. I think people really need to learn self-care. Americans have not really taught that. Europeans have been taught that. But we don't really eat well. We're not a healthy nation as a whole. There are pockets of it, but I think people really should take self-responsibility by taking care of their own bodies and their own minds. I think mental health awareness, I think people should really seek out help if they're not feeling well mentally. I know this has been incredibly stressful on so many levels. Isolation and loneliness and not having your life or your job if you lost it. A lot of people lost their job. I know in New York, the unemployment rate is outrageous. To get a job, it's very hard to get a job in New York unless you're delivering something or you can do some kind of essential work. Or every job is essential, but unless you're doing a job that's medical, there's not a lot of jobs in New York City right now, which is very odd. There's always been a ton of jobs. My day jobs are all gone. So it's like all the things I used to do, like when I was acting, are now like you can't even get those jobs. Production's coming back slowly in New York City. Film production is coming back, but I think that most of all, I think I'm going to encourage people to take care of themselves, however that is, and be kind to each other. That sounds kind of, floofy, whatever, but just be kind to yourself and be kind to others. And that's all you can really do right now. And be patient. I think patience is important as well.
Okay. Do you follow?
Don't come with such anger. Like, anger is only healthy if it's going to get you to the gym. You know what I'm saying? Like, kind of like, a lot of us are angry, and I know I'm angry a lot, and this is from my own experience. So if you feel angry, find a productive way to deal with your anger. And if you need to speak to somebody, find a really good therapist. There's a lot of therapists now. You can do it on, like Zoom therapists. It's not fun, but, don't be ashamed to get help if you need it.
Okay. Follow-up question. Do you feel if people were more kind to each other and I guess we went for help more or went to the gym or ate healthier, that would have an impact on,
Absolutely.
COVID-19 and getting sick and whatnot?
I believe, self-care is the first, it's like a microcosm, look, not, you could this is the thing, you can do all those great things and still get COVID-19 and die. Like you could, but your chances might be less, right? Because we don't know, but it does help. Anything helps. Living a healthier life helps you. And there are people that live very unhealthy lives and they're fine and they get COVID and they get like, oh, it's nothing. The thing about COVID, it's no straight line. It's not like you get the flu, you make sure you take care of it. We don't know it's just so many crazy things with COVID. They don't even know the strains, the mutations. It's a crazy disease. It's like a foreign disease came out of the sky from another planet. And now our body's like, what is it? We don't know what it is. So I think, but all those things will make a better society. And I think it just creates a better livable world, because we're only as healthy and mentally and physically, we only can control ourselves, right? So if we can make ourselves the best we can be, and then our relationships with our fellow people around us, and they're doing the same thing, it just makes a better society. Of course it does. It helps 100%. With COVID, with everything, with our economy, we work together. I mean, I've seen so many great things, like people are raising money for each other where the government fails us, which they often do. People are helping each other, which is what I love about America, and that's what I love to see. And those are always nonpartisan things. Those are always nonpartisan issues, and those are beautiful, beautiful pieces of America that we need to see more of. Citizens working to help citizens.
Thank you, Stacey. So, of course, if we wanted to learn more about you said we can go to prussmanformayor.com.
Yeah, PRUSSMANFORMAYOR.com. Look at my policies, and there's more and more coming. We put more stuff on the site every day. Donate whatever you can. I know times are tough for some people, but give what you can. Help me run against the billionaires, against the establishment. Let my voice be heard, because I don't have millions of dollars behind me, like Yang does and some other politicians, and nothing wrong with them, but they have the money behind them already, and we are grassroots. So help what you can, donate, volunteer, have your friends. If everyone gave $10, $20, we can raise a lot of money. It doesn't have to be a ton of money, but if you have it, give it.
Got it. All right. Thank you, Stacey.
You don't have to live in New York to donate either. If you have relatives that live in New York City and you want to bet in New York, you can you can donate for them, meaning that, to give an honor of donate, but, you're helping them as well. So, yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's something as well. So I know you're from New York and you live in South Carolina. So.
Yeah. And that we know people that may not live in this city, but they work in the city, and of course, while working there, whomever's in charge, their policies affect them too.
Of course, they pay taxes, and they work in like the fire department or the police department. It's run by the city, so we want to make our city work better and we want to be a better city, and we want to wake New York up. Wake up, New York! Drink your coffee. It's time to wake up. We're the city that never sleeps. Stop sleeping. Come on, we got to do this together.
That could be a good campaign slogan.
It is. Well, it's wake the F up. That's why New York, wake the fuck. I don't want to say curse words.
No, it's totally fine. This is, once again, open forum for you to...
Oh, good, because sometimes I do radio and I'm like, oh, I said fuck, Wake the fuck up, New York.
No, it's totally fine. It's totally fine.
I say bad words all the time, but I grew up in Brooklyn. I grew up in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, where, when I was 7 years old, I saw Saturday Night Fever. So...
You saw that same what?
I saw Saturday Night Fever.
Oh, wow.
At 7, when, no one, there was no one cared. They'd take their kids to see, rated R movies at, under 10 years old. I'm like, Mommy, what does that mean?
Oh, yeah.
So look for me at PrussmanForMayor.com. Look at my policy. If you have any questions, there's a contact, volunteer. There's a way to volunteer for the campaign. We need volunteers. It's a grassroots effort. Come join us.
Got it. Thank you, Stacey.
Thank you so much, Chris, for having me.
No problem. To our fans and those watching, like I said, we want to thank Stacey for coming on. If any candidates, whether they are in the same race as Stacey or any race, ever want to come on my show and talk about the issues regardless of their party affiliation, they are welcome and they will get the same level of respect regardless of the party they represent, because to me that's just a good ethical way of doing the news. We could always have debates. We could do that too, as long as people have a certain level of respect for each other and everyone gets treated the same. So
Exactly.
with that, I'm going to say take care, everyone. Please continue to watch the show. And now a word from our sponsors.